Okay. I think we're ready.
Let's go.
We know the drill. 3 and 2 and 1. Welcome to episode 64 of Black, White, and Blue in the South, the podcast discussing Democratic politics with a Southern flair. I'm Bill Kimler.
I'm Jumelle Brooks.
And I'm Francie Kleckley.
Yay!
Yes, we welcome back former South Carolina State Senate candidate and, more importantly, our friend, Francie Kleckley,
absolutely.
to Black, White, and Blue in the South studios.
Yeah.
We're so happy to have you back. Tell us, Francie, are you ready to admit that your lesbian woke agenda is not fit for South Carolina? Oh, I forgot to tell you, we've also pivoted to a conservative MAGA podcast while you were away. So
I think I'm having a heat stroke, and I probably should leave.
we're doing this for the ratings now.
Yes,
Did you not get that? Did you not tell her, Jumelle? I forgot to update her.
Francie,
I
take me with
apologize.
you.
I'm telling you. I listened to the latest episode coming up here. I love it, and you have not pivoted to an ultra-conservative agenda.
Okay.
I
It
can
won't
just
happen.
tell you that.
No
won't
fooling her,
happen.
but the look on her face when I launched into that.
Oh, my goodness.
Deer in headlights.
It's almost like I need to read the notes before he says it.
Yes. No, that would take all the fun out of
Okay.
it. I love your reaction to, some of the things he says that maybe you're not accurate.
Actually, I'm going to get this question out of the way. Do you intend to run for office again?
I think you never say never,
Mm-hmm.
but the circumstances would need to be special.
All right. I just wanted to know how wild we can get in this
But
episode.
that's a perfectly crafted response, I think.
It is.
You worked on that.
It's not my first time being
Okay,
asked that
okay,
question, but
okay.
it's a tough thing with gerrymandering.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I just wanted to see what kind of tone we were allowed in the show. But if there's a chance you might run, there's going to be some heavier editing, I'm sure.
I didn't say I wasn't running for dog catcher, things like that.
All right. I just want to check the video. Everybody is in camera, so
Yeah.
you're looking good. All right.
Okay.
I forgot to mention, we are coming to you from Greenwood, South Carolina, a little red county in a very red state. If you like what you hear and think others ought to be listening as well, then you need to hit pause right now and leave a little rating for our show, or write a little review, or tell your friends about us, or interact with us on social media, or better yet,
Oh, gosh.
send President Trump a belated Father's Day card, because as we just learned last week, Donald J. Trump is your daddy. And from now on, we will refer to him as Daddy Trump. You know you want to. Do you know what I'm even talking about?
We about to hit that curse word quota.
Not in the first few minutes, surely.
Do you even know what I'm referring to? Is
No.
this
No.
news?
This
Okay,
is
wow.
new. Let's-
Wow.
let's
This
see.
is all over the media right now. So
Really?
last week, there was a huge NATO summit, and the NATO Secretary General referred to Trump as Daddy. You want to watch?
Click play.
All
Hurry
right,
up.
there we
Oh,
go.
my God.
You have to see it to believe it.
I don't believe.
They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. They fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes, then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to
You have to
get
use
stuff.
strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
Did you hear him say that? Did you
who's
hear him say
your dad?
Daddy has to
He
use
said
strong
that.
language?
He said that.
Well, it doesn't stop there,
Oh,
because
Jesus.
after NATO chief Mark Rutte, I think is his name, after Mark Rutte called him Daddy, it went wild out in the social media universe. And I want to share with you a video from TikToker Branson Gates.
Okay.
Branson Gates is becoming quickly one of my favorite creators on that platform. And he is a rather flamboyant young man who lip syncs everything Trump says, and you would almost think Trump was flaming himself.
Oh, let's
it
go.
fits so perfectly into that persona. So in this clip, a reporter asks Trump about being called Daddy, and then Trump has a lengthy response, and Branson does the lip sync, which is perfect. Now, for those of you who are listening, you're going to have to imagine a young, fine-looking gentleman rolling his eyes and waving his hands as he's doing the Trump lip sync. But flip over to YouTube and watch the video that
Yeah.
you'll see in the show notes. You'll want to see this gentleman. He is a genius.
Okay.
Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you Daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children.
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay?
Do you
He
regard-
did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
So you go follow this young man because he's got video after video after video, and it actually makes you somewhat warm up to Trump. It really does.
I like it.
The way. But it doesn't stop there. From The Independent comes a story out of Michigan where state Senate was talking, they were doing a debate, and Republican State Senator Jonathan Lindsay
Okay.
made a suggestion that from that point forward, all the language concerning Trump should refer to him as Daddy Trump. Okay. All right. But it's not that statement that I'm playing this for, although I will play that clip. It's the response to that, which was golden, because fellow Senator Jeremy Allen Ross, who happens to be the first openly LGBT member of the Michigan State Senate, had the perfect response to what that other guy had to say. So let's watch that.
A lot of people in America have come to think of President Trump as a sort of father figure. And indeed, this morning, we even saw the leadership of NATO refer to him as daddy. So maybe in these resolutions going forward, we could have a little bit of recognition of like Daddy Trump is who we're going to oppose or something like that. Get creative with it. But in the meantime, please vote no on these resolutions.
You don't want to know what daddy means in my community.
Come with it. Come with it. Come with it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So there we are.
It's the only thing I could get from it.
Let us know what you think about Daddy Trump by dropping us a note at blackwhiteblue@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. So go check us out. And look at those award-winning show notes on your little podcast app where you can find links to all of those accounts, links to all the news items we talk about, and more. Well, Jumelle, we were chatting earlier this week, and you told me you've been on roller skates. So what does that mean? Have you been out at the rink?
No, but I did buy a pair of skates. I meant to tell you that.
Okay.
I really got onto this whole Usher trend. I don't know if y'all know Usher, but he's into roller skating. And so a couple years ago, I bought some roller skates, and the family was like, please throw those away, because I was falling all over the place. But that is something I'm trying to develop. It's just been working. I mean, you know.
What does that mean? Every time I talk to Jumelle, I learn something new.
I'm all over the place. I'm steady moving.
I pinged her yesterday saying, here are some of the topics I was thinking. And she goes, I've been on roller skates.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why do I care?
I've
been in my
dangerous.
car.
I mean, she's already got the knee.
Yeah, I got it, right? The knee is still not kneeing.
But you're telling me that is a phrase.
It is. And it might be Jamilism, but it's just the way of me saying I've been like on the go.
Busy.
Okay.
Busy.
As no other. Like it's one thing after another.
Like I just say I've been busy.
No, not for me.
You
My
can't say
business
that.
is a different type of busy.
I have to translate what you say.
I know.
Gotcha.
Isn't that cool?
Before we get any further, I also want to issue our sincerest condolences to former guest and also our friend Bishop Oliver McCrae on the passing of his wife Tamara last week.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a long bout fighting Alzheimer's and dementia, and she finally lost that battle last week. And there hasn't been a more devoted caretaker and husband, and even 24 hours after her passing, he was on doing a Facebook Live talking about men be good husbands to your wives. He was issuing a lesson in all of this. And how he did it with that picture of him and his bride behind him, that was a riveting but tough to watch video.
He is a shining example of what you would want your partner, husband, wife to be during a health crisis.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Agreed.
So our condolences to him, and gosh, we love him. We wish him the best, and we'll be praying for him and his family.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say in the way of introductions before we jump into our first topic, or are you just ready to go? Francie, it's just good to see you.
It's
good
We'll
to
have
see
a
you.
formal interview with you in a minute.
She has this glow about herself.
I know.
Like that she's been living her best life.
Why are you glowing? You were not glowing while campaigning, so you're glowing now.
So, I've just spent a lot of time catching up on other important causes and family and friends.
Yeah.
So.
Because you really have to do that. Once you pause from that running, you literally have to go back and say, wait a second, what was life before? What I
Right.
missed? How do I fold myself back into that?
You know, and so many people and so many organizations supported me. And so I am trying to say thank you by giving back to them either through, you know, acts of kindness, deeds,
Yeah.
or actually being a responsible board member. And,
Yeah.
You know, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And other important causes. So it's a
Yeah.
roller skate.
It is.
It's a roller
Here we
skate.
go. Get you a pair, Bill.
That's right.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm kind of disappointed I don't see a bottle of tequila
I'm
anywhere.
sorry. Yesterday I pondered out loud I should take them a gift, and I had smoked a brisket, and I thought about bringing brisket.
I saw the brisket, but we didn't get that either, Bill.
And
I know.
and then I thought it's heat, and what if they're not going straight home, and then I just didn't. So
Well, we get it. You've been on roller skates, so I fully understand.
Yep.
All right.
But I read that the brisket was really good.
it was surprisingly good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with this because we actually have a follow-up to our last episode.
Okay.
We had talked about the attempt to get a hate crimes ordinance considered in city council.
Yeah.
And we happen to have in the studios with us right now the agitator-in-chief, Dr. Jumelle Brooks.
I love that.
A black, white, and blue in the South exclusive.
So tell us, Jumelle, when we last spoke, you shared how you stood in front of city council
Yeah.
as a member of the city,
Yeah, that's
as
me.
a leader of the city, and speaking on behalf of many people who live within the city limits. And you asked them to just consider what many other municipalities have done throughout the state and throughout the country
Yeah.
and pass a hate crimes ordinance since our state General Assembly has absolutely no interest in doing so. So we spoke extensively about that. And by the way, we have a little video clip of you speaking on that that's going viral on TikTok.
Oh, cool.
They're loving it.
Oh, wow.
You're getting all sorts of accolades and praise for your efforts.
Cool.
Now, what we want to update our audience on is that you returned a month later to city council. Did you not?
I did.
And why did you go back a month later? What was
Because
your
they didn't
purpose?
respond to my email attempts. Okay, so here's why I went back. I don't address people unless I address them directly. So you won't catch me saying something and not bringing it back to you. And the Index Journal followed up with an article where there were council members that were interviewed. One of the council members said, why is she bringing this to us? And the other one said, well, we'll have an executive session so we can discuss it. So my intent was to go back and address the why is she bringing it to us and in preparation for the executive session. I don't want you to go unprepared. That's what I do. I prepare people.
So why did you go back? I guess that's the question on the table.
Because I wanted to address why was it brought to me. No council member should ask a resident of a city or a county that you serve, why are you bringing an issue to me? That's tacky and undeveloped. So
and
I thought
asking
I would
it
insist.
through the press rather than
Through the
to the
press.
individual directly.
And I am in that council member's area, and not one phone call came from them. So I thought, well, since you can't bring it to me, you prefer to address me publicly, I will come and do the same. And that's how that happened.
Now, I was there. It was a packed room. I mean, they hold this meeting in a closet to begin with. So you can only
Exactly.
fit a couple dozen people in this room.
Yeah.
But it was packed. And a good, I would say maybe more than 50% were there for you.
Yeah.
And you went up and you were allowed, 15 minutes
Yep.
of speech? You used and eloquently used all 15 minutes of it. And you addressed concerns that you try to step in their shoes. You try
Yeah.
to see it from their point of view
Yeah.
and say, listen, I understand this may not be an easy decision, even if you're in favor of it. Here's the pressure you may get. Here's the responses you can give. You actually went out of your way to step out of your comfort zone and sit in their seat and
Yeah.
say, here's how you might want to address this.
Yeah.
So they allowed you your 15 minutes. And then what happened?
Then they sat there like mimes, if that was possible. But then once I go to take my seat, this is when the mayor begins to say that based on the advisement from council, that the council, from the attorney, the council would not take up a motion on this because it was in violation of the Constitution. So, of course, I have like 50 questions ready to go for any type foolishness like that, because you don't have to be an attorney to know that ain't in violation of the Constitution. My first question was, if you are to say that it is in violation of the Constitution, are you telling me that the other 21 had attorneys that work for their cities and towns, and those guys violated the same Constitution that you're talking about? Because if so, you're telling me those cities and those towns attorneys were incompetent, and I don't think they would like for you to say that.
Well, here's the problem with the whole format is that you got your 15 minutes, but you don't get to respond.
I don't.
So they can come up and say all sorts of crazy things at you or at this issue.
Correct.
And you don't get to ask follow-up questions. You don't get to say, well, what part of the Constitution do we believe is being violated
Correct.
here?
And no evidence was supported.
And
submitted.
did you know that the city attorney who made this advisement, his name is Tripp Paget. And did you know that Tripp once ran in the Republican primary for South Carolina State Senate District 4?
I did.
Yes. So here you have an attorney who already has a political leaning.
Correct.
Now, that doesn't mean that Republican automatically means you're opposed to hate crimes ordinances. You can't assume that in every case. In fact, there's quite a few Republicans who want the hate crimes ordinance.
Yeah.
But you have to question it and say, well, does the political leanings of your city attorney color their interpretation of the Constitution? Are they just towing the party line here? Or are they giving you truly unbiased legal advice?
And then let's also go a little bit further. And I wasn't going to make this public, but the mayor made it public himself. When you look at the Municipal Association for South Carolina, they publish advocacy initiatives every year. There's a board of them. They meet. They say these are the gaps that we see from a state level. So you could fill in some of these gaps with ordinances or however you see fit that's legal to close those gaps so that your city can be profitable. That's why you're there. Well, 2023 and 2024, that board met. And one of the initiatives for advocacy was to have your city council or county council implement hate crime ordinances.
Wait a minute. This was the 1980s, was it?
No.
1990s? How long ago was this again?
2023, 2024.
It was just last year.
Correct.
Oh, my God.
And they proposed that because we did not have a state hate crime, and overall it was impacting the potential for organizations to move into South Carolina. On that board that made that recommendation and decision sat our mayor. Yet it is 2025, and you have not implemented one in your own city.
Yeah, he gave a long speech about how he was personally for it, how he felt that it was wrong that South Carolina was one of only 2 states without a hate crimes law. And then he went and hid behind his city attorney and said, well, what are you going to do? City attorney. Now, the rest, like you said, you said it perfectly. The rest of the city council were like mimes, right? Not a single word from anybody else. There were 2 members that we know are friendly to the cause that were in via Zoom. They didn't speak up, and afterwards it said they were kind of hard to hear it. But it sounded like the whole story was shut, right?
Correct.
Is that how you understand it to be today?
Correct. No. I've since heard rumblings, and I've since read that some of the council people were under the impression that this was still being discussed and that it wasn't a shut door. And I said, well, that is not what was stated. And instead of listening to me, go back and watch that live, so I won't misinterpret anyone's statement.
Oh, I was there. That was the impression I got. It was basically,
It was a done
see you
deal.
later.
That's what it was. And so now I'm hearing that that is not it, that there will continue to be some deliberations and that they will end up with something or having a discussion. And then every time that I went to them, I explained to them, I'm not asking you to be Einstein. Like, I'm not asking you to come up with something that doesn't already exist. You have about 21 others that you could look at to see what is the perfect fit and craft that baby to where it benefits Greenwood. So stop acting like I'm telling you to go and write something that has never been done before. And so now the feedback that I hear is that there has to be they want to make sure that they take their times and review this so that they don't get sued by implementing an ordinance.
And so have other cities been sued for implementing that ordinance?
According to them, they have, but I haven't seen anything published. Yeah. And I went, so you mean to tell me that, I don't know if people know where the State House is, but that's in Columbia. And I believe that they have said ordinances. So you mean to tell me all the attorneys that are in the Columbia area did not find it to be a violation of the Constitution, and you have not heard them being sued, but Greenwood would? Yeah. Okay.
Well, here's what I wish would have happened at that city council meeting. Let's say that there is a legitimate constitutional concern.
Okay.
I'm not a constitutional scholar, so maybe there's something there I don't understand.
Correct.
There was zero explanation given. If I was the mayor sitting in that seat, I would have said, our city attorney is concerned about the constitutionality of a city hate crime ordinance. Here's the problem. Here's where we think we may have issues. We're still discussing.
That's all I needed.
I think if we would have walked out of there not happy, but certainly not upset and not feeling like you just wasted your time and wasted your breath for 15 minutes.
Yeah,
That's what it really felt like.
I agree. But now the backhand is, and like I said before, you know what's happening. People who've been funding their campaigns or they are considered their friendlies, those individuals have already gotten into their meeting locations, phones, or whatever, and said either touch this or don't touch this. And there's that pressure on them. But you're going to have to do something under pressure. And I believe that is where we are right now. But you're at a point to where if you choose to stand by this is unconstitutional, by stating that, you've opened up a door where every other city and town's attorney is now looking at you to say, show me how.
So I understand you've been camped out in front of City Hall every day on a hunger strike since then. How is that going?
That's
wearing roller skates.
Wearing roller skates.
You know what? I told a group the other day, here's where I am with this mentally. Greenwood will join the ranks of the others who have a hate crime ordinance of some sort. I'm not worried about that. I have time and I have energy, so we'll continue with this fight. What will happen is it will pass under the sitting council or it will pass under the newly seated council. It's the choice of each person who casts that vote. And it's not a threat. It is literally what happens. Laws pass either while you are in office or they pass when you're out of office. And the same thing will happen with this ordinance because it's definitely something that benefits everyone. And anyone who doesn't see that isn't trying to see the benefit of having it implemented.
Agreed. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I would like to turn our attention now to the guest star of our episode today, the lovely Francie Kleckley. Remind us, where do you hail from?
Lexington, South Carolina.
That was about an hour drive for you to get here today, a little
hour
over?
and change.
Hour and change. Well, we're so happy you made it.
Yeah.
You ran for state senate in District 10 last year. Ran in that same election that Jumelle and I ran in, and we all got the same result.
She's still my senator.
I do. Do you write letters and emails to her?
I just know that if you were voting on my behalf, it would come out great.
It would be different.
Yeah. Still my
It'd be
senator.
a different vote.
Yeah.
So you ran against the incumbent, a guy named Billy Garrett, who's just not well. And the results were not good. That they were actually pretty bad results. My results were actually worse than yours. I don't know if you ever saw those numbers, but they were worse. Jumelle was the one that had the closest results out of all of us. But at the same time, all three of us are sitting here together.
It's still we lost.
It's still the
I was
same
going to
L.
say the results were the same.
There's no big L, little L here. It's all just an L.
Yeah.
Right at the same time. So how do you feel afterwards? We went out to dinner as a group of former candidates, and then our committee teams and the volunteers, and had a nice little dinner. It was a blur to me because I think I was so beyond tired at that point. But now that we're past the election, 7-8 months since the election?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. How has your life been since? By the way, you still have so many fans here in Greenwood that talk about you. You made an impact on people, whether you realize it or not.
And so that's one of the positive takeaways is, Greenwood is such a special kind of microcosm in South Carolina. You're not just off of an interstate. Mm-hmm. And I have kept in touch and I've received so much feedback, from the people of Greenwood that I hope there was, a message about hope and we can be different. And, I just love the people of Greenwood, except the ones who didn't vote for me.
Yeah, correct.
Except those folks.
Yeah.
But just there's so many special things going on, and particularly you two as leaders of the Greenwood Democratic County Party. I mean, y'all do great things for Greenwood County and for the city of Greenwood. I missed the Festival of Flowers this year. I mean, there's so many positive things going on. I wish Greenwood was a little bit closer.
On the way here to record, I drove by your former campaign headquarters, and there were some strangers sitting on the porch in chairs.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, what are you doing in my girl's house here?
I know.
So I put it on the market and sold it to a lovely couple who, love the older home vibe, and I think he's a carpenter and has probably done some work on it. I was going to cruise by there on my way.
Normally I don't notice, but I looked for your real estate sign hanging out front, and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
So, but it was bittersweet. Kind of found a lovely couple that wanted it, and So
I
it
just
all
am
worked
impressed
out.
how quickly you flipped a house.
I
Like,
mean,
to
she
me,
flipped it so fast. That's what I was over here thinking. Like, girl, you flipped that house.
the fact that she
Yeah.
went and bought a house for her campaign headquarters in Greenwood. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we're looking for closets.
Yeah.
She went and bought a house.
A whole house.
A whole house with bathrooms and kitchens and
Yeah.
2 floors, a basement, drive, and all that. and not even worried that she would be saddled with that house for 30 years, which would be my worry.
Yeah.
You flipped it like a week after the election. You're like,
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
That's just impressive.
Yeah. So, just
Do you have any regrets from having run? If you go through it all again, exactly the same way, would you do it? Or you were like, yeah, you know what? Maybe my energies would have been best served elsewhere.
So I still feel like it was a very positive experience. And I'm not happy with the outcome, of course, but the positive experience was the people and the messages, both to them and to me along the way, and just met, particularly down in, my home neck of the woods, some great people who share the same values, who are fighting for the same causes. We, as you introduced, a red county and a red state. Lexington is a red county and a red state, but I found an awful lot of blue.
Which county did you perform best in? Do you remember? I didn't see the breakdown.
I was going to say, I've
know.
seen it. I think it was Lexington.
Yeah.
But, I found, my people, my community, the folks that, share the same core values that I do. And so that was a wonderful part of the campaign. Yes, you two know, we all did it together. It's exhausting. And, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Would you consider spending another entire day with me at the jockey lot this summer? I will pick the hottest day and
I
just
want
go
to say,
sit
as
there.
long as it's the hottest day. And, there's something about rolling up at the jockey lot and watching people just buy, firearms, off of somebody's table.
What a freaking nightmare that day was. We talked about it in our episode with Emily Mayer, but
But we had good food.
to me, that was a low point. Just sitting in that hot, stinky jockey lot, watching people sell their crap up and down.
You've improved with the terminology because before, you were struggling with that.
Well, that's because I was running for office.
Yeah.
Right? So now I know I'm not running again, so I'm going to let it all out.
Yeah.
It was jockey.
Jockey lot.
That's it.
Jockey lot.
Jockey lot. Just people selling all sorts of crap. It's like, hey, I just swept out my basement, stick it in a box, and I'm going to
Right.
go sell it in the jockey
And people
lot.
buy it.
Turns out I was on my way to Goodwill or wherever. I'm just going to stop here and see if anybody else wants my stuff.
And then the people that we encountered, just some of them are heinous. I mean, we got the baby killers coming at us.
Oh
and
my gosh.
we got all sorts of a couple nice people, but really, what was the purpose?
It was an entertaining day. That's just where we're going to have to file that day of our lives.
who set that up? Was that Tori who
That was
made us
Tori.
go?
I'm blaming Tori for that
Yeah,
one.
because I was good on my no. I was good. I didn't budge.
Yeah.
Y'all were like, okay. I was like, nah, Tori, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Where's Jumelle today? Oh,
No.
she said no.
She said no.
So one thing that did happen during your campaign that occurred after we had a chance to have you on our show the first time is the fact that you sued your opponent. So talk about that, because we didn't get a chance to bring that up. What happened there?
So when there was the Republican primary, one of Billy Garrett's opponents had, hired a private investigator to determine where Billy Garrett lived, which we all know was not in District 10.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, it was in District 10 before, so District 10 had...
so he voted to
withdrawn.
gerrymander himself out of the district, living in McCormick.
He had been in McCormick, and then in this last election cycle, McCormick was no longer part of 10,
right.
and in fact was stretched out to Lexington, where he didn't live.
Mm-hmm.
So he was still had a house in McCormick, says, I'm still going to run for this district that I'm not even in.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
everybody
I feel
just seemed to look the other way.
Because he assumed that nobody would be looking.
that nobody would care. And so it's, it started during the primary.
Yeah.
And, he had to run twice in the primary to get on the ballot. And, I just...
So what was the evidence? So besides the private investigator, so was there any evidence that you could submit to the judge that says, listen, here's the evidence that we got, A, B, and C,
Right.
that he does not live in this district?
Right. So we had, your personal residence tax rate.
Turn that microphone a little more towards you. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're taxed at a 4% rate if it's your primary residence.
Okay.
Okay. and you also register to vote, and you have a driver's license. And so what we ultimately found is somewhere just before he filed to run, he had driven to Lexington, and he had done all of those things. But the McCormick County assessor did not have a record at that time that he had moved from a 4% to a 6%
Wait a
rate.
minute, I'm going to make sure I clarify this. So your primary residence, you get taxed at 4%.
Correct.
If you buy a second home, which is under his wife's name, bought a house in Lexington, but they got assessed at a 6% rate, which would mean it'd have to be a secondary second home, a beach home or whatever, not a primary residence according to the legal definition.
Correct.
So with that in hand, the fact that he's got a house at 4% in McCormick, another house in Lexington at 6%, you know where his primary residence is.
Right.
All other information's irrelevant. So you send that to the judge, you make the argument, and the judge says, I agree because it's incontrovertible evidence. That's not what happened.
It's not what happened. The judge
Oh,
the judge actually refused to rule on the case.
What? Is a judge allowed to do that? Like, let's think about that. If you have a murder charge, right, and you go up there and you have the prosecutor and defendant, and they present their cases, all the evidence submitted, can the judge go, nah, I'm not ruling?
So
How does that work?
So it works like this. So if he didn't rule, then my only choice was to wait until the election was over and go to the Senate with this same set of evidence.
The
Senate with the super majority. And so, what are the chances that they would turn on their own?
But really, you go through the effort of filing, you have a decision that needs to be made, and the judge says, I'm not ruling because it's too close to the election.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that is allowed. Can you sue the judge?
Not that I'm aware of.
Listen, I'm not an attorney, but I always tell people it's not can you sue, it's if you'll win.
Right.
Because you can bring as many lawsuits as you want. If somebody take it, you can go. But the question is, will you win? Is what I would think.
Yes.
Well, that is a damn shame because at this moment, he should not even have been on the ballot.
Right. And the unfortunate part is all the door knocking that we did here in Greenwood, and everyone was like, yeah, we know he doesn't live here, but we're voting for him anyway. Yes, we know he's a bad guy, but we're voting for him anyway because he's, our bad guy. And we're going to keep him in office.
That actually makes a good point.
Yeah.
Because when you're running, and all candidates should realize where they live and what they're up against, most of the time you're not running against the person because this person is eminently unpopular.
Right.
He was primaried himself, an incumbent.
Yeah.
Getting 3 primary challengers tells you this incumbent wasn't beloved for whatever reason. Too extreme, not extreme enough, whatever the reason is. He drew 3 primary challengers. That first round, remember, he didn't even get a majority of the vote.
He did not.
It had to go into a runoff.
Yeah.
And even in the runoff, it was close.
Yeah.
He ran against a first-time no-name from Lexington. Not that there's anything wrong with first-time no-names from Lexington.
Right.
But he ran against somebody, again, he's the incumbent. He's got 4 years of a body of work and opportunity to meet with the people, and still it was within 10 percentage points.
But that just showed you that they were floundering. Like they were really looking for a shining star out of the people that were running against him in his own party. And it just seems as though you didn't have the right person running against him on the Republican side to unseat him. So
But
they're not committed to Garrett. They're committed to the Republican Party.
I was going to say,
come to November, it didn't matter who was on the ballot.
Right. It was, they were going to, and we looked at the numbers, the vast majority of people pull the straight R ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, and no matter how much that you have been out there and tried to make a name for yourself, if you're going to vote Republican, then you're not going to pull the D ticket.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's on there. But
so this is a question I struggle with. What is the point of running then? And I have some answers, but knowing that, what good was it of putting in all that energy, time, money, etc.? Do you have any, looking back on it, do you have any feelings on that question?
So I think the point in running is that a different perspective is offered to the community, anybody who's willing to listen, that makes them hopefully think about the issues that impact them and how they're being addressed at the State House, nationally, just like the hate crime that you're thinking about. And so if you just live in your bubble and you only talk with people who share your opinions, and you only watch the news station that just reinforces your opinion, then you don't ever grow and learn as a person. And so this was hopefully a way to show folks that there's a different way of doing business, a more equitable way, a way that might help, raise their level of understanding, their lifestyle, their way that they're existing on the earth. And so hopefully it caused them to think, and that will carry on down the road as candidates come before them and say, here's what I believe in. It's unfortunate that we, bigotry, homophobia, and misogyny is still,
that's the thing,
as predominant in South Carolina and obviously nationally as it really is. It's sad, but you can't give up on hope. I agree. One day somebody is going to, and I think it's gradually happening that folks are seeing the damage that Trump is doing, and hopefully things will be different.
Yeah, I like that response.
Well, Francie, it's probably for the best. I mean, you may not have succeeded in your quest for the SC State Senate seat, and I see that might have been a blessing in disguise. As you know, Jumelle, I watch hundreds of hours of General Assembly broadcasts.
And I love the way you recap it, because I don't have that kind of patience.
And I may have uncovered the most shocking and disturbing clips. Let's move into your South Carolina representatives at work.
Your South Carolina representatives at work.
So I was watching an 8-hour Senate session, and this was on their last day of this legislative cycle for the rest of the year. So back on April 30th, when they could have finalized legislation to deal with critical issues that affect our state. What are some issues that you're aware of, like poverty, right?
Poverty's a big one.
What's another
Medicare,
one?
Medicaid.
Medicaid expansion, right.
Private school tuition.
Yeah.
Education funding.
No, that ain't on their list.
Roads, infrastructure.
Women's health care rights.
My God, yes.
You stop talking with all that sense. That's not what we're going to do.
That's not what we're here for.
So there are a whole bunch of things that they could have worked to solve right there in their final day.
Yeah.
Instead, they spent time on this item that I'm about to play for you. Now, a warning to our listeners, if you have any children within hearing range of this podcast, I recommend you send them away now. As a content warning, I will not be censoring or bleeping anything from this Senate session. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Is everybody mentally ready for this? All right, here we go. This is the South Carolina State Senate on their last day, April 30th, 2025.
Medical Affairs Committee has reported favorable on H 4067 bill, which adds a section to the code so as to require all hospitals with emergency departments to have at least one physician physically present on site who is responsible for the emergency department at all times. The emergency department is open.
All right, that wasn't the one. That was just the warm up. Just to give you, I want the background, let you know what they're about to flow into. All right, here it comes.
The bill's placed on the calendar.
Family and Veterans Services Committee has polled favorable S 383 bill by Senator Davis and others. It's a bill amending the code relating to the Prothonotary Warbler Recognition Act by adding a section to the code to designate the Prothonotary Warbler criteria as the official state migratory bird of the state.
My God.
What'd he say?
The Warbler.
My God, the shock.
Important work.
Senator from Beaufort, what purpose do you rise?
To make an announcement to the body.
You're recognized.
I've been practicing that word all afternoon, and it's prothonotary.
The Senate is so informed. Senator from Charleston, Senator Campson, what purpose do you?
From Beaufort, yield.
Senator Yield. Senator Yields.
Senator, you've mastered the name. Now can you master the song that it sings?
I cannot.
The people's work, y'all.
The bill will be placed on the calendar.
Absolutely
We'll have the
shocking.
opportunity when it comes up for it to get there.
All right, let's pull the room. Jumelle, you all right after seeing that?
No, child. Look, I'm looking like Senator Margie Matthews. Look at her face
Yeah,
on here.
I was going to say.
I got the same look
Yeah.
she got. The world.
Yeah.
So this is what our South Carolina State Senate, this is what you could have been in the middle of.
This is leadership.
Right. They were referring to the Prothonotary,
Good luck with that.
Prothonotary Warbler. All right. That is the state migratory bird.
Oh, my God.
Critical people's business. Now, Jumelle, you've been... This bill, by the way, just as a trivia point, was sponsored by Senators Davis, Graham, Zell, Rankin, and ironically, Goldfinch. All sponsored this bill. But Jumelle, you know me by now. And as having done 2 years and 64 episodes, what am I about to do now?
You're going to look that bird up.
We're going to talk about that bird for a minute. So
knew it.
you must be curious.
I knew it.
What does the Prothonotary Warbler look like and sound like? Well, I've got this video right here.
In the swamps and flooded forests of the Western Hemisphere is a warbler species unlike any other, the Prothonotary warbler.
Well, he's cute.
Prothonotary warblers have a bright yellow body with gray wings. They have olive-colored feathers on their upper back, creating a gradient between the yellow of their body and the gray of their wing. Their undertail is white, and they have black on the tips of their tail feathers. The song of the Prothonotary warbler is a loud tweet, tweet, tweet that usually contains somewhere between 4 and 14 individual tweets.
Well, we didn't get improved roads. We didn't get women's health care. We didn't get an improved public education system, but we now have a state migratory bird.
A damn bird.
Yep.
This is why I watch these videos, to pull this important stuff out for you to learn.
And that's just it, Bill. Sometimes when I'm listening to the podcast, you tell me things I really wish I didn't know.
I mean,
and I'm putting this one in that column.
Yeah, this is definitely one. That video took a lot out of me.
Just deflate.
I should have brought the tequila.
Yeah, we needed
Now
it.
would be a good time.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's lift our spirits.
For up to the minute reports, stay tuned to this station. Now the news.
We're going to talk about the lovely Planned Parenthood Supreme Court decision.
Oh, you just keep going.
Oh, hey, you know, it's not me, it's life. I wish we could come here and have nothing to talk about except your dinner plans with Brooks, right? But unfortunately, shit happens between our episodes and we have to talk about the shit. So, speaking of that, the Supreme Court weighed in on a motion made by the state of South Carolina. Did you know that this whole thing originated in South Carolina? It started with Governor Henry McMaster saying that the federal funds that come in for Medicare, or is it Medicaid?
Cade.
Thank you. Yeah, Medicaid. That the federal funds that came in for Medicaid would not be used by the state for any services at Planned Parenthood. And what does Planned Parenthood do? Refresh my memory.
They do everything.
Everything,
do
but-
breast cancer screenings. It's not
health
just
care.
it's women's health care.
Planned Parenthood handles women's health care. But however, you have people who only think that there's one part that constitutes women's health care. And they think that abortions are the only thing that Planned Parenthood does. And it's so diverse. So much more. But because of that...
And they do birth control.
They do birth control.
Right.
They provide
cancer
access to
screenings.
so many resources that people don't have access to if it's not for Planned Parenthood.
So this starts back in 2018, by the way, with an executive order given by Henry McMaster, governor of South Carolina. That's how far back this goes. We are now in the year of our Lord 2025.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court finally weighs in on this in favor of that executive decision.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely baffling that patients do not have a right to choice in order to pick which healthcare provider they wish to go visit and have it be funded by Medicaid.
Yes.
For services that are not against the law. Breast cancer screenings are not against the law.
Not.
Exams are not against the law. Birth control, not against the law yet, right?
Yeah.
These are things that are all legally obtainable, but for political reasons, the state decides to target an organization because they don't like something else that they do, which is not covered by Medicaid anyway.
Correct.
So if you're a hospital and your director happens to be a vocal Democrat activist, let's say, well, we are now within the rights of the state leadership to deny funding to that hospital for that reason only, for no other reason. There is no test of why a decision like that can be made. It has now become just a political decision.
Yeah.
And who does this impact?
The people.
But most particularly the lower income.
Intentionally.
Yes.
There's that. Listen, everything that they do is to make sure that that gap grows wider and wider. They're going to make sure that there will definitely, look, the middle class is fighting for dear life. So it's almost as if what they're going to do is, in order to make sure that the lower class doesn't thrive, one of the ways you can do that is you continue to push more of the middle class to the lower class. And then that gives you a wider gap to get to the upper class. This is all strategic. And I've been saying this since before the campaign trail, but this has nothing to do with god dang on abortion. This has never been what it's about. The fight is so much broader than that. And it is definitely a form of strategic and systematic oppression to ensure what we've always heard, where the rich stay rich or get richer and the poor get poor.
That's exactly how I see it, and I'm hoping you'll ask me a IRS question.
Give us an answer. What question can we ask?
Yeah.
What
would you say from with your IRS hat on?
Well, it's not so much about the IRS, because I realize that, most people, I can clear a room in a heartbeat talking about the IRS, but the IRS collects 97% of the funds that go to fund the country, whether it's defense, roads, all of that. So, it's tax administration. I'm sure we've all run afoul with the IRS. I think I'm afoul with them right now, but it's when you think about Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Ooh, honey, that thing.
That will pass in some form probably this week.
Yeah.
And so intentionally, they have gutted the IRS. We've lost 25%. And so then you're going to come out with new tax laws.
Including the elimination of the free filing program.
Right.
Because who wants that? Who wants, everybody wants to pay HR Block to file their taxes for them. Why would anybody want to have a free place to go file their taxes?
But someone needs to program those systems. Somebody needs to write the rules. Somebody needs to update the forms. And so the goal is to do away with particularly the enforcement piece. So the haves can have more.
Yep.
Because the policemen are no longer on the roads, and so you can drive as fast as you want. That's kind of, an analogy. And then the have-nots who are dependent on refundable credits, on money that was never paid in, the child tax credit.
Yeah.
And they won't be able to get a return processed, and they'll have less. They depend on that money to pay the rent, to have their car fixed.
Yep.
For all the things in life that are just basics. It's not the big vacation. It is the basics of life.
Yep.
And so that is, I'm a member of an organization of retired IRS executives. And so we have come together to, A, try to provide some stability to the people left behind, and B, to help the people who are exiting, unwillingly, to find other jobs and all of that. And so I think about it from a tax administration standpoint. IRS collects
boy, did this state miss out on having a good senator.
I'm telling you,
we've
my
played
senator.
Clips of the elected Senator Billy Garrett speaking, and the guy rambles and makes no sense. Remember that one thing we saw him in that committee hearing?
Yeah.
And he just went on and just was confused by the clock on the wall.
I ain't never seen a group of people that's more afraid of intelligence
Yes.
than I have during these last couple of years.
But But, that is at the heart of that, is that, and because I still, had plenty of friends who were working there, one morning I woke up and an executive friend said, this is the report they just published. And it was every top executive at IRS. And they had compiled everything from their, a lot of states you register by whether you're Democrat or Republican, how you voted, and if you liked on any social media platform, anything that was remotely political, and who you had contributed to.
Hold on, I want to pause. You're saying the IRS has compiled data on who
There-
I hit like on social media.
Exactly. And if you think they're not just doing that with IRS executives, they're doing that with everyone. And this was an outcome of Doge, which, of course, this compilation of private information is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it under the guise of we have too many Democratic-leaning executives to deliver on Trump's very conservative agenda.
Yeah. Keep digging, Francie. I'm telling you.
I mean, it's
all I
just,
can say is that the next Democratic president has been given the playbook as to what is now acceptable in politics. So if on day one, when President Buttigieg swears in the oath of office, if he doesn't deploy the National Guard around Mar-a-Lago, I will be extremely disappointed.
Yeah.
That should be his number one priority.
Yeah.
Stick the National Guard there because of the lawlessness that comes out of that place.
Yeah.
Hey, we're allowed to do that now. Precedent has been set.
Precedent was set out in LA.
So what you see is you actually see the individuals that Trump admire.
Mm-hmm.
You see him implementing those same procedures here, but he's just having to go a different way because we are such a large democracy.
Right.
So you've just forced a group of leaders into voting a certain way in order to maintain their livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't click what you really feel. You can't vote in the best interest of you and a large population of people that you're concerned about, because if that information comes back, then now your family and your stability is at risk.
Right.
Hey, let me come back to the Planned
People
Parenthood
were escorted
topic.
out if they said to Doge, oh, we can't let you access that information without you doing X, Y, and Z first. And they were handed a box, and they were, for their personal belongings, and escorted out of the building.
So are you saying that if Big Balls came knocking on your office door that you would have told him no, go away? Do you know what I'm referring to?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then let me enlighten you so that it doesn't seem like such a random...
It's kind of like roller skating.
One of Musk's first Doge employees was a 21, 22-year-old kid who went by the moniker Big Balls on social media. That was his name. And he had no qualifications, and he was the one that was going to the IRS. He has since left Doge and has been rehired by the Social Security Administration. Again, just look up Big Balls and Doge. You will see a million articles about it. That's how goofy this entire administration has been.
Yeah, I heard firsthand from, high-level person that the person that came in, whose name I don't think was Big Balls, but it could have been, and just looked at org charts with names of organizations and said, well, that doesn't seem necessary, and that doesn't seem necessary without. And so it wasn't until someone would say, do you remember, when Trump's tax return was leaked out there and all of that? Well, this is the part of the organization that did cleanup on that to try to protect, and they, well, maybe we should keep those people. I mean, It was that scientific.
Good gracious, in the night.
Well, back here in South Carolina, the person we both admire, Vicky, or the three of us admire, Vicky Ringer, was on the Capitol steps, and she had a response to this Planned Parenthood decision. And as you can imagine, she was not happy.
Yeah.
So let's give Vicky some words.
Our patients will no longer be able to come to us for their annual well woman exams, the pap smear, the breast exams, the people who rely on us for sexually transmitted infections, testing and treatment. That will not be available. No more birth control for Medicaid patients from Planned Parenthood. Now, the governor has said, there's so many other Medicaid providers. We know that's a fallacy. There are not. We have a dire shortage of Medicaid providers. When the governor first issued this executive order in 2018, we scrambled to find other providers who would care for our patients. What we found was there was no one who would see a patient in less than 3 months. Well, if you've got a problem, 3 months is unacceptable. So who are they going to go to? Meanwhile, the state is sending money to these anti-abortion clinics that provide no health care whatsoever. But the main reason that they've done this is clearly political. They want to shut down Planned Parenthood, and they want to have a backdoor ban for abortion. Well, 6 weeks is just as well be an abortion ban. People are suffering. We've seen people denied care already. But hear this, we are not closing our doors. We will continue to see our patients regardless of their insurance plan.
Oh, God bless them.
God, she is a fighter.
She's a hero.
She's a fighter.
She is indeed.
And you know what pisses me off?
A lot of things. Do we have
I
time?
thought you had somewhere to go.
I did.
All right, we got a lot of stuff to cover. Make sure this is good. Go.
Well, you know what pisses me off is that the individuals who truly need the benefits that are associated with Medicaid are trying to throw that Republican hand in the air as if they don't. There's a large population of Republican voters that rely on services being covered by Medicaid. But yet you will go into that goddamn on booth and vote Republican so nobody finds out while you are cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah, there's a lot of noseless faces running around South Carolina.
God.
Our last news topic today is also local to South Carolina, but it brings up an interesting question. Do you invite politicians of a certain political leaning and who have had a track record of despicable statements into your building to have a discussion? The topic, and I think you know where I'm going with this, Jumelle.
I know.
Our Superintendent of Education, Ellen Weaver, has been invited to speak at the African Methodist Episcopalian Church. Did I get that right?
You got it.
All right, that's the AME.
AME.
Right? This came to my attention because I followed Justin Bamberg. If I don't look at a single Facebook post today, I'm looking at his. Like, this is number one, most entertaining.
Yeah.
But he brought to our attention the fact that the AME Church of South Carolina, he wrote, I'm going to quote him, AME Church is tripping. I agree 1,000% with Representative Hamilton Grant, and we actually have a statement from Representative Grant. Justin Bamberg further writes, of all the advocates for real social justice, truth, change, and progress, they pick SC Superintendent of Ed, Ellen Weaver, as their, quote, social action speaker. Not the PragerU partnership. It's bad to teach kids history in SC public schools that Harriet Tubman was a slave who freed slaves. Not that official, not the woke is a bad word official, not the 6-week custom master's degree by Bob Jones so she could qualify for office official. He said, I could see if it was a panel or something on education in her role as superintendent, but social action, that was a downright slap in the face of all of us who are fighting against the type of policy changes she wants. So yes. It is absolutely crazy. I put a link to the poster in our show notes. Now, when I go to their website now, her face isn't there anymore. All right, this was from a social media post they put out, but their actual website has a different poster that does not feature any mention of Ellen Weaver. I even downloaded the 3-day agenda of this event. She's not mentioned in there as well. So that's just crazy. Jimmy, what do you think?
I don't speak for all black people, but y'all know I'm black. And like, I think it's enough is enough. And I think that sometimes we put ourselves in positions that we don't need to be in. We are known as a caring group of people who will give pretty much everybody a chance. I mean, that's just what we do. But I'm going to say in some situations, Maya Angelou had a quote, when a person shows you who they are, that's who they are.
Believe them.
Or believe them, right? So this woman has showed us time and time again where she stands. And when she comes in to do a presentation, her presentation that I've seen her do looks to be one that will ensure that every student in South Carolina can grow and do well. I've seen the presentation, one of them anyway. However, when she hits that media and the things that she supports is completely opposite of what that little presentation is going to show. She has shown you time and time again that there's a certain population of people who look like the people who go to the AME Church that is not a priority for her to educate. So to have people invest in, show up in, and put their time and monies and effort in something that supports her is a disgrace, if you ask me.
Yeah, I just put the poster up on the screen.
Which one of them things don't belong? We had a cartoon.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Which one of them things don't belong? And who is that right there you got your mouse on? You know who that is? Go back over, right here. Over, one more. Who's that?
Oh, he's famous. What's his name?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Grant? No, not Grant.
Mm-mm.
Richard Allen?
No.
Jumelle Bryant.
Jumelle Bryant.
That's it. I had to look it up on the screen.
Let me tell you who she don't want to be on the same stage with at any given time. She does not want to make sure that she is in the same room, on the same stage, having a conversation with the Jumelle Bryant.
Reverend Dr. Jumelle Bryant.
She wouldn't last 5.2 seconds.
So Representative Grant started with the Facebook post. He says, I offer this statement with a heavy heart rooted in deep respect and profound love for the African Methodist Episcopal Church, a denomination that shaped my spiritual and civic convictions. It's the church where my grandfather preached faithfully for over 50 years and where my wife's grandfather, the Reverend Daniel Lee Simmons Sr., gave his life in the basement of Mother Emanuel AME Church on that tragic June night in 2015. He is writing in disappointment that the 7th Episcopal District Summer Summit lineup includes State Superintendent Ellen Weaver. He then goes on, and Jumelle, to your point, you've been and seen where she speaks and she sounds like a rational person.
Yeah.
But then you look at the track record, and Representative Grant writes out the track record. She has been sued by the NAACP for her office's decision to eliminate credit for AP African American Studies.
Yeah.
All the other AP classes are fine.
Yeah.
That one, which was fine,
because
for some reason had to be eliminated.
Because she said it was indoctrinating the children.
Yes.
The students.
She praised U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, an appointee who has championed efforts to dismantle the Department of Education and weaken public school systems.
Even though when I was at a meeting that she came to present, she said she did not think that they would be able to dismantle public education.
But she's in support of it.
But she's in support. But that is not what she said.
She supports the Trump era ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity executive order.
What does she know about merit?
Which directly opposes diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. That's what Reverend Grant wrote. I'm going to add a couple other things. She's also claimed to wipe the schools free of CRT, critical race theory. She has called everything related to the protection of black students' rights and preservation of history as woke agenda, her words. And then, Jumelle, you also introduced something in an episode in our past that she was opposed to the Office for Civil Rights.
Yeah.
What did she say about that?
This is where she said in a meeting that I attended, she spoke, and she said that some of the superintendents' hands were being held because of their fear of what OCR would do. And I said, well, let's look at what kind of cases OCR take on, because OCR is not holding superintendents' hands. The only thing that makes it to OCR would be something that's completely egregious. So when you go down and you pull down the list, you saw disabilities mostly on that list. Very few was there a race-related issue. These were more issues that were being taken up from school districts and OCR where people with disability services did not get what they want. There's a whole list.
But she feels like it's tying their hands.
Yeah.
This is Representative Grant finished with, while I'm a strong advocate for civil discourse and conversations that stretch across political ideologies, I also believe our values must align with our platforms. Social action is not neutral. It is prophetic. It demands that we speak truth to power, not give power a platform that contradicts our truth. Wow.
That was deep.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to conclude with a letter that the bishop of this district of the AME Church wrote. His name is Bishop James L. Davis, and he replied. Now, I'm going to post the full letter in our show notes, but I pulled out a couple of sentences I thought were enlightening.
Okay.
He wrote to the members that he recognized that there was a controversy in this invitation. He wrote, quote, as a newcomer to South Carolina, I have entered this season with a listening heart and a learner's spirit. Early in my tenure, I had the opportunity to attend a convening of black clergy across the state, where Superintendent Dr. Ellen Weaver also presented. Is she a doctor?
No, not to my knowledge.
She had to weasel her way into a master's degree from Bob Jones, that 6-week master's degree to even qualify.
Maybe she's a TV
Why is he calling her Superintendent Dr. Ellen Weaver?
Because if you black and you a superintendent, you better have that doctorate.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what he's used to.
Maybe he's just assuming she's a doctor
Maybe.
when she is not a doctor. So anyhow, he also wrote that extending an invitation to the superintendent is not an endorsement of every policy. But he started off by saying that he saw her speak and was wowed by her. Just like you said, when she speaks in public, she comes across as potentially rational.
I don't want to listen, viewers and listeners. I'm not saying nothing she has ever said or ever thought has wowed me. I don't know where he gets that from.
Right.
But I will say that when she does that presentation, it looks as if whoever put it together has done an amazing job in determining which way South Carolina should go.
He writes, this meeting could be a moment for the superintendent to be exposed to and more deeply sensitized to the cultural and spiritual heartbeat of our people. This is the same logic that says, well, maybe we can convince Trump to see our way. There are some people you are not going to convince. There's no convincing.
This woman looked at students that came from state and different HBCUs, and one young lady went to that podium. It was a packed room. One young lady went to the podium and she said, and Miss Weaver, you said that AP, African American history, was indoctrinating us and it was not good for us. I'm paraphrasing. And that woman sat up straight in her chair, fixed her jacket, and looked that young lady in her face, the black young lady in her face, and said, yes, I did say that. It is.
So he finishes his letter, which was a well-written letter, and he's trying to make an explanation, but here's how he finishes. To those who have expressed concern, I hear you. I honor the depth of feeling and commitment behind your words. I respect your right to disagree and your courage to voice it. I simply ask that you grant me the same grace in the exercise of my leadership. So basically, he's putting the foot down.
I was going to say he's got a listening heart, but a strong stance.
So it's an interesting controversy, and I'm curious to see where this goes. But I'm going to close out this news item with a clip, Jumelle, that you introduced to the Greenwood Democratic Party one breakfast meeting.
Okay.
That kind of lets you hear Ellen Weaver and some of the dangerous ideas that she has. In this case, she's going to talk about micro schools that are faith-based.
Yeah, buddy.
Listen to this.
And I'm so thankful for an opportunity like this to be able to consider an overtly faith-based education and really a school that I think can become the beating heart of education in the heart of the free world. I would love to see, if not the abolishment of the Department of Education, Jimmy Carter's give.
Well, I got to point out Tim Scott's stanky feet.
I was going to say, what is he thinking?
Look at them exposed socks just flopping out here on an informal panel.
Oh, my God.
We could spend another 10 minutes talking about Tim Scott's socks. But no, we're going to sit here and listen to what Ellen Weaver had to say.
Give away to those teachers' unions back in the 70s.
And this is where she completely besmirched the Department of Education.
Does.
The teacher giveaway.
She does.
She hates the very people she is in charge of helping in that department. I've never seen anything like this.
Block granting funds back to the states, because I know on the ground, a lot of Christian schools are very, very concerned about the dollar.
Only Christian schools are concerned.
That's all she's going to talk about.
Only Christian schools.
Christians.
Yeah.
Or the strings that come attached to federal dollars. But I also think that, that's at kind of the global level. At the micro level, I'm really excited about the innovation of micro schools, because I think faith-based micro schools could completely revolutionize education, especially in our neediest, most rural communities. And I want them to know that we do believe in them. We do believe in their God-given potential, and that through an innovation like a micro school, essentially a one-room schoolhouse that can be supported.
I can't take that, lady.
Where's my bullshit flag?
That's what that is. Now, you talk about indoctrination. That's what that is. That's an ultimate slap in the face. They want to take you and put you in a one-room school and then determine what you have access to learn. That's scary as hell. And you got the nerve to sit up there and rub your crusty feet together while this woman is looking at you, telling you what she gonna do to little children that look like you. Go ahead, click play, chat. Go ahead, Bill, click play.
And that's a wrap.
You know that don't make no sense now, y'all.
For this episode of Black, White, and Blue in the South. We hope you enjoyed what you heard today. I'm sending Jumelle home angry to her husband for their dinner date.
I was going to say,
Jamile's going to be talking about...
You have set him up for...
About Jerome's crusty feet.
Lack of success. I hope he's got his shoes on when she gets home.
Poor Jerome. I should send him an apology note, like a doctor's note. Send it home with you.
Yeah. Gosh.
Please take a quick minute and leave us a rating and a review, unless your name is Jumelle. She's not going to be giving us a good rating today. We really want to know what you think. If you do, it will ensure that Daddy Trump pays child support to all of his children, meaning that big stupid bill of his will not pass.
Yeah.
If you are a blue dot in a red sea, keep the faith, keep up the hard work. Change only happens over many years of work and dedication. To close out this episode and stay on the theme of education, I'm going to close out on this rather lengthy clip. It is just under 7 minutes long. That's very timely since we have just passed the season of graduation for our students.
Okay.
In this clip, comedian Tim Minchin, a guy I've never heard of before, he delivered a commencement speech at the University of Western Australia, which I actually found rather profound. It's called 9 Life Lessons. And then afterwards, I'm going to quickly poll you to see which of those 9 life lessons you thought was the best.
Okay.
Here we go.
I'm not an inspirational speaker. I've never lost a limb on a mountainside, metaphorically or otherwise, and I'm certainly not here to give career advice because, well, I've never really had what most would consider a job. However, I have had large groups of people listening to what I say for quite a few years now, and it's given me an inflated sense of self-importance. So I will now, at the ripe old age of 37.9, bestow upon you 9 life lessons. 1, you don't have to have a dream. Americans on talent shows always talk about their dreams. Fine, if you have something you've always wanted to do, dreamed of, like in your heart, go for it. After all, it's something to do with your time, chasing a dream. And if it's a big enough one, it'll take you most of your life to achieve, so by the time you get to it and are staring into the abyss of the meaninglessness of your achievement, you'll be almost dead, so it won't matter. I never really had one of these dreams, and so I advocate passionate dedication to the pursuit of short-term goals. Be micro-ambitious. Put your head down and work with pride on whatever is in front of you. You never know where you might end up. Just be aware the next worthy pursuit will probably appear in your periphery, which is why you should be careful of long-term dreams. If you focus too far in front of you, you won't see the shiny thing out the corner of your eye. 2, don't seek happiness. Happiness is like an orgasm. If you think about it too much, it goes away. Keep busy and aim to make someone else happy, and you might find you get some as a side effect. We didn't evolve to be constantly content. Contented Homo erectus got eaten before passing on their genes. 3, remember, it's all luck. You are lucky to be here. You are incalculably lucky to be born. Understanding that you can't truly take credit for your successes, nor truly blame others for their failures, will humble you and make you more compassionate. Empathy is intuitive, but is also something you can work on intellectually. 4, exercise. I'm sorry, you pasty, pale, smoking philosophy grads, arching your eyebrows into a Cartesian curve as you watch the human movement mob winding their way through the miniature traffic cones of their existence. You are wrong and they are right. Well, you're half right. You think, therefore you are, but also you jog, therefore you sleep, therefore you're not overwhelmed by existential angst. You can't be can't, and you don't want to be. Play a sport, do yoga, pump iron, run, whatever, but take care of your body. You're going to need it. Most of you mob are going to live to nearly 100, and even the poorest of you will achieve a level of wealth that most humans throughout history could not have dreamed of. And this long, luxurious life ahead of you is going to make you depressed. 5, be hard on your opinions. A famous bon mot asserts that opinions are like assholes, in that everyone has one. There is great wisdom in this, but I would add that opinions differ significantly from assholes, and that yours should be constantly and thoroughly examined. We must think critically and not just about the ideas of others. Be hard on your beliefs. Take them out onto the veranda and hit them with a cricket bat. Be intellectually rigorous. Identify your biases, your prejudices, your privileges. Most of society's arguments are kept alive by a failure to acknowledge nuance. We tend to generate false dichotomies and then try to argue one point using 2 entirely different sets of assumptions, like 2 tennis players trying to win a match by hitting beautifully executed shots from either end of separate tennis courts. 6, be a teacher. Please, please, please be a teacher. Teachers are the most admirable and important people in the world. You don't have to do it forever, but if you're in doubt about what to do, be an amazing teacher. Even if you're not a teacher, be a teacher. Share your ideas. Don't take for granted your education. Rejoice in what you learn and spray it. 7, define yourself by what you love. I found myself doing this thing a bit recently where if someone asks me what sort of music I like, I say, well, I don't listen to the radio because pop song lyrics annoy me. Or if someone asks me what food I like, I say, I think truffle oil is overused and slightly obnoxious. And I see it all the time online, people whose idea of being part of a subculture is to hate Coldplay or football or feminists or the Liberal Party. We have a tendency to define ourselves in opposition to stuff. As a comedian, I make my living out of it. But try to also express your passion for things you love. Be demonstrative and generous in your praise of those you admire. Send thank you cards and give standing ovations. Be pro stuff, not just anti stuff. 8, respect people with less power than you. I have in the past made important decisions about people I work with, agents and producers, big decisions based largely on how they treat the wait staff in the restaurants we're having the meeting in. I don't care if you're the most powerful cat in the room. I will judge you on how you treat the least powerful. So there. 9, finally, don't rush. You don't need to already know what you're going to do with the rest of your life. Don't panic. You will soon be dead. Life will sometimes seem long and tough, and God, it's tiring. And you will sometimes be happy and sometimes sad, and then you'll be old, and then you'll be dead. There is only one sensible thing to do with this empty existence, and that is fill it. Not fill it, fill it. Life is best filled by learning as much as you can about as much as you can, taking pride in whatever you're doing, having compassion, sharing ideas, running, being enthusiastic. And then there's love and travel and wine and sex and art and kids and giving and mountain climbing, but you know all that stuff already. It's an incredibly exciting thing, this one meaningless life of yours. Good luck, and thank you for indulging me.
Good job. That was a good find, Bill.
I thought so. It really moved me.
Yeah.
Francie, we thank you for spending an hour plus with us again.
It's always wonderful to be with you guys.
Yes.
I miss you.
Yes, we just as a technical note, we are going to go on a little hiatus here in the month of July. So we're going to take a little summer break.
Yeah. Well deserved.
Yeah. And I can't think of a better way to have ended this cycle than with our friend Francie.
I
But we will be
know.
back in August, and we already have some interesting guests lined up.
We do.
And some surprises along the way.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, we may even have a best of episode here and there.
Oh, that'd be
Remember
cool.
that hour of Jumelle noises? I still plan on putting that out.
Yeah.
Please put that out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.